the command and control ways of leadership no longer resonate with humanity. It's time for us to shift from the old ways of leadership into dragon leadership. Join me for a powerful discussion on leadership, authenticity, and humanity with the dragon leader himself, Dov Baron. In this episode, you'll learn why the old command and control ways of leadership are no longer effective, how your version of authenticity could really just be faux authenticity, why a fuck it moment is more impactful than an aha moment, why dragon leadership is the way of the future, how to rise up as a dragon leader, the ways in which you might be avoiding personal responsibility, and finally, a powerful question that everyone in leadership needs to ask themselves. Dov Baron is the Dragonist, guiding us in how to recognize and nurture dragons, the top talent, hidden in our organizations. A dragon leader is not a position. It's someone who is always pushing to improve and wants those they serve to reach their full potential. Dov's humor and no BS style is contagious. As a master storyteller, he is considered to be the leading authority on actualized leadership. Actualized leadership means getting the results you set out to achieve in the most meaningful manner. Working with diverse leaders and executive teams, Dov filters common bonds to create fiercely loyal cultures. You can't achieve loyalty without meaning, and talent only stays when they feel that they are part of something larger than themselves. Besides being a best-selling author of One Red Thread and Fiercely Loyal, Dov has been named one of Inc. magazine's top 100 leadership speakers to hire and is one of the top 30 global leadership gurus. He has spoken to the United Nations, the World Management Forum in Iran, the New York National Speakers Association, and the Servant Leadership Institute. In June 1990, while free rock climbing, Dov fell approximately 120 feet and landed on his face. The impact shattered most of the bone structure of his face, and after 10 reconstructive surgeries, no external evidence remains. However, this experience wasn't just life-changing. It has been completely transformational. Dov shares how dragons are born in fire, experiences that could potentially destroy you instead birth purpose, passion, and hunger to champion others to nurture the dragon fire in ourselves, our families, our communities, and our companies. Dov believes the world needs more dragon leaders committed to living their purpose, standing in their truth, and empowering others to feel their fire and do the same. Dov is someone that I greatly appreciate. His views on leadership have always been ahead of the game, and his fire has the power to ignite yours. I know that every time I'm in his presence, my fire is ignited. So tune into this episode for yourself and learn why he's one of my favorite leaders. Now, before we go any further, hit pause right now, download a few episodes, and please take a moment to drop a rating and review. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast. And if you want to connect with me or want to share your biggest insight from this episode, shoot me a text message at 1781-336-0160. If you prefer emails, you can subscribe at rubyfremon.com/subscribe. And if you want to reach out via social media, my handle is at IamRuby. Now it is time to talk about the future of leadership with Dov Baron. Hey, thought leaders, I am back with a very special guest, someone who is currently residing in my hometown of Vancouver, BC, and also someone who inspires me in leadership because although we come from different generations, we actually hold very similar views to what leadership is. So without further ado, I am so happy to welcome Dov Baron to today's Thought Leader. Dov, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ruby. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you and the audience, and looking forward to how I might serve.
Thank you. Yeah, me too. I'm excited to see where this conversation goes. And where I want to start is the idea of leadership. Because I feel that both you and I know that leadership has been redefined over the years. And especially with the era of technology, which we are now in, and our ability to share on a wider platform and be seen in different ways, things have changed in our external world, which
Mhm.
naturally means that leadership also needs to change. So I'd love to hear your views on where leadership was versus where it is today.
Thank you for asking. Well, as you said, we're of different generations, but I am, as somebody I was interviewed once on stage, and somebody said, why would baby boomers listen to you? And I said, because I am one. And why would millennials listen to you?
Hmm.
And I said, because I am one. And they were like, you can't be both. And I said, I am. I was born in the baby boomer generation, but I was a millennial even then. Um, and, and that a lot of the millennial views of leadership have always been my views of leadership. Leadership was command and control. I never agreed with that, never thought it was a good idea, and tried to have people understand that leadership was about, first and foremost, self-leadership and self-development. Leadership has transformed, of course, but has it? What I mean by that is I also meet millennials who want to lead by command and control,
Hmm.
and I meet baby boomers who don't.
Hmm.
So it's really, there's the mass idea of a thing, and then there's a subjective reality that is very individual. And I think that we are being called to step into a deeper level of leadership that is personal first.
Hmm.
And how can I lead me? And the old walk your talk thing is now what I love about millennials, and I wrote about this in Fiercely Loyal, in my book
Hmm.
Fiercely Loyal, was what I love about millennials in leadership is they have great bullshit meters. I just love
Yes.
that. And so if somebody's saying, do as I say, not as I do, they'll walk away. And I think that's great.
Hmm.
I really do. So I think that's the major simple shift, aside from the technology and all the things that make it so.
Hmm.
That is the undercurrent.
Right. So from command and control to self-leadership and self-development, which I always say is described as like leading from it within, being the leader in your own life first, before leading others. And one of the things that I find interesting is that it seems like before the world of social media existed,
Mhm,
you almost had to earn the microphone. And
mhm,
now everyone has a microphone in the
absolutely.
palms of their hands, right?
Mhm,
And so I think it's easy for even millennials. I like that you mentioned millennials can also go into command and control. It's easy for millennials to fall into that because it's so tempting. You have this digital device in your fingertips. It's easy
mhm,
to turn it on, hit record, command your audience, try and control how you're being perceived, how you're being seen, control what you're saying, control how you're showing up, control your audience. Um, it's so interesting to see that and see the two paradigms of leadership actually coexisting right now, but also seeing how one is starting to rise higher than the
mhm.
other. When it comes to the command and control ways, how do you see people, specifically millennials, actually still doing this today?
Well, one of the ways to do it, I see all the time that drives me completely freaking nuts and pisses me off, is that very often what I see is what I call faux authenticity,
Mm-hmm.
FAUX, faux authenticity, faux leadership, faux authority. All those things just are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So people are talking about personal development. They've never done any. They're talking about being a coach. They've never been coached. They're talking about leading. They've never led anybody. They've never been led. They don't know how to be led. They just want autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
Autonomy and leadership are vastly different.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to be a great leader, you have to know who to follow and why to follow. And you have to be willing to get your ego out of the way and actually say, hey, I learned this from this person. One of the things I see so much is these new command and control millennials who are saying, I'm the great authority, but they never give any credit to anybody. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't do that, you actually don't make yourself look better. I know,
Right.
because I was 20 as well. I remember
Mm-hmm.
being that way. I wouldn't want to give credit because I thought it would make you look small. It doesn't make you look small. It makes you look bigger because it makes you people realize you're well thought out. You're well researched. You've done that. And so they show up with faux vulnerability as well. They tell a story that they think is going to hit the heart spot with somebody, but it's really got no true heartfelt revelation in it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lack of humanity, which is
Mm-hmm.
command and control, but it's clothed in this vulnerable, authentic bullshit that's
Mm-hmm.
got nothing to do with reality. And so that's a much bigger piece. So when people say, you got to do work on yourself first, I'm always like, how much work have you done?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you still doing it? Because
Yeah.
if you think there's a there, you're dead in the water. There is no there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Right.
there. And I've been working on myself since I was 7, and I'm 62. And I
Mm-hmm.
am definitely not there. I don't know where there is.
Well, first of all, you look great for 62.
Thank you.
Second, I feel like you and I could both rant on this topic forever. I have a
Oh, for a couple of
chapter,
weeks for sure.
right? Like I have a chapter in my book called False Authenticity. And
Mhm.
it feels like one of those trends that we're seeing, and or even false vulnerability. And I know you love talking about vulnerability too, and how
Yep.
it's a strength, but it's the false vulnerability. Like, let me show up in this way so that I can achieve X, Y, Z. Right? It's attached to some sort of outcome that they want, some sort of result, but they're not really doing the work to be authentic, to be transparent, to be vulnerable. And I agree fully with, this is a lifelong journey.
And
I
I want to take a pause there, if I may,
yeah,
because
of course.
I want to say that one of the things that I do love about, I've seen some of your stuff, and when I see
Mhm.
your stuff, um, you have your authority, you have your leadership, you have your product, that obviously has multiple levels to it. But every now and then, I just see you show up, and you're like, yeah, I'm in a shitty place.
Mhm.
Or I'm going through this, or I'm struggling with that. And for me, that's leadership.
Mhm.
It's not old school leadership, but it is new school leadership. It is the way it needs to be, because the truth of the matter is, people only bond with people they can see themselves in.
Mhm.
And if you're quote perfect, then I can never follow you, because I'll always feel inadequate around you. I'll
Mhm.
never feel quite good enough. And so when you show up and you go, I'm really struggling with this today, right? And I'm really thinking about that today. Or that for me is like endearing.
Mm.
It's endearing. It pulls people to you. And I see that you do that. And I want to just acknowledge you for that, because I think it's important, because it's a demonstration of walking the talk. It's not walking the talk because, oh, I should do this. It's
Right.
walking the talk because that's who you are. That's
Mhm.
great.
Thank you. Thank you for that acknowledgement, for picking up on that. Um, it's funny because my dad is older than you, but he's been in the leadership space since I was born. And he had the command and control views on leadership, and we've
Of
butt
course.
heads throughout my career on how to show up, even just on social media. Like, oh, don't share your whole story. Like, we don't do that. Don't let people know where you've been, just talk about where you are. And it's the old school leadership mentality of, if I show my quote unquote faults, um, or shadows, or things that just aren't right, then I'm not going to be perceived as a leader. I'm going to be perceived as less than an expert. And so I'm just curious, because you are a baby boomer and you've been doing this for decades.
Mm-hmm.
Did you always show up in the self leadership ways? Were you always showing up like that, even before millennials were here?
Oh, definitely before, because I've been speaking for 35 years.
Right.
And if I may, I'll tell you my first speaking experience.
Yes, please do.
So I owned businesses in 3 continents and ran businesses and did really good and worked hard. And one of my businesses, I had a client who would come in, and he would just come in and talk to me. We just had these great combos. He was a very, very smart man who owned a national menswear company in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And one day he came in and he said, "I'd like you to come and speak for me." And I said, "What do you mean speak for you? We're speaking now." Because I didn't know anything about speaking.
Right.
And he's like, "No, I want you to come speak to my national managers meeting." I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And I go, "Speak about what?" And he goes, "Anything you want." I go, "Come on, Steve." And he goes, "No," he says, you know, "You're a very intelligent guy. You've got a lot of subjects." He goes, "You know, I'd like you to come talk to them." I'm like, "I don't know. I'm not a speaker." And how long for? He goes, "An hour." I'm like, "Oh my God, are you crazy? I can't speak for an hour." Now it's a warm up, but, you know, but, he finally taught me into half an hour, but he said, "I have one condition." And I said, "What's that?" He was much smarter than me. And I said, "What's that?" He said, "I want you to show up like this." Now, let me give context to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
This was 1984,
Mm.
right? So it was 1984, and he said, "I want you to show up like this." And I said, "What do you mean?" Now, he owned a national menswear company, and he made my suits. And
Right.
so I had two sets of clothing. One was suits, very, you know, beautiful suits for the 80s, but
Mm-hmm.
suits. And the other one was, if I wasn't in that, I've been a bodybuilder for since I was 19. And when you're a bodybuilder and you're in your early 20s, it's important that everybody knows.
Right.
Because, you know, ego is a little bit large at that point. My ego was on testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, so I was wearing super tight t-shirts that were too small, and rip tight jeans, and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with rips in the knees and all those kinds of things. And my hair was down past my chest.
Oh, wow.
And I have naturally very black, curly, sort of Louis XIII hair, right?
Okay.
So I had these long, black, curly hair, earrings that were big enough you could swing parrots off them. I had my designer stubble, you know. And
So you were a pirate.
pretty much, that's the look, right? That's pretty much what it looked like. I dated several girls who used that comment. So that was my look. Now, when I was wearing a suit, my hair would be slicked back tight in a ponytail. I still had the earrings on, but I'd wear a suit, and I'd look really sharp. But the rest of the time, and this particular day, I was in a tight t-shirt. My hair hadn't even been sort of pulled back, so it was wild. It was out like, you know, it looked like a nest. And I had the big earrings in, and he said, "I want you to look like that." And I said, "Well, you know, I've got suits." And he says, No, I don't want you to wear a suit. I want you to show up like that. I said, "Can I put my hair in a ponytail?" "No, I want you to wear exactly what you're wearing today. I want you to have your hair exactly as it is." I'm like, "Okay." So as instructed, I show up on the day, and I put my head in the door, and I look down this room of a long corporate table of about 12 or 14 guys who were all buttoned up and looking very Gordon Gekko from Wall Street. You know, they all look very uptight. And I put my head in the door, and these guys look at me, and they give me, I'll use the clean version of this because I would use the British version, but they give me the bugger off nod. And the bugger off nod is this. They look at you and they go, it's sort of a head cock to the side, which is saying,
Right.
"Get out, you're in the wrong room."
Right.
Right. So I just put my head in and smiled, and they give me this nod, and I waited. And then Steve said, "Please welcome our speaker." And I go up, and I honestly do not remember what I spoke about, but I clearly remember what I said at the beginning. And I said, "This is the 80s in Australia. There's a lot of media around racism, particularly with the Aboriginal people of Australia. So I said, put your hand up if you're a racist." Well, you can imagine how well that went down.
Right.
Nobody put their hand up. So I said, "Okay, fair enough. So put your hand up if you would judge somebody by the color of their skin or the way they look in any way, shape, or form." Nobody put their hand up. I said, "You're a bunch of kin liars."
You can swear here. It's okay.
Oh, okay. I said, "You're a bunch of fucking liars."
Yeah.
And they all looked at me and went, "What?" I said, "Every single one of you judged me by the way that I look. You decided how intelligent I was. You decided how much money I had in my bank account. You decided whether I was a customer, and you decided whether I had anything to say of value. But here's what you don't know. Steve and I are friends, and we became friends because I first met him when I came into your store, and he made my suit. I wear your suits, your best suits. I'm a really good customer, and you just lost a client if I'd have walked in." And at that point, I figured, you know, I've shit the bed. It's all over.
Right.
I've said stupid things. I look over at Steve, and he looks like his face has been cut open. His smile's so big
Yeah.
because he obviously was smarter than me. He realized what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I killed it. I mean, it was a fantastic presentation. I don't remember the rest. I left that presentation, and, you know, it was totally that vulnerable authenticity that everybody's talking about now. I was doing 30 odd years ago. But here's the thing. If that was the end of the story, I'm a hero, but I'm not a hero. I want everybody to understand this, because here's what happened. I went away, and the following week, Steve came in and he said, hey, I talked to Alistair about your presentation and told him how fantastic it was. He wants you to come speak for his group. Alistair also owned a national clothing company, not menswear, but mixed. So he went, oh, fantastic. Now I've got the bug. I'm like, oh, this is great. So what do? I start researching speakers. Now, I've been following development and already been involved in it for many, many years before that. But I never seen a speaker live, and I didn't know what they looked like. So I started finding them, and they found they wore a uniform. And the uniform was blue suit, white shirt, red tie, patent leather shoes. They had short hair, and they were clean shaven, or they had a mustache. All right. So what did I do? Got myself a blue suit, white shirt, red tie, patent leather shoes, cut my hair short, and had this nasty ass thing on my lip that looked like an animal had died. Honestly, it was Borat special. It was so bad. And I went and spoke for Alistair, and I died. Because there was nothing authentic about me. I conformed to what I thought I should be. And that's what I see even in leadership today. Is people are looking around saying, well, what should I be? I should be authentic. What's my authentic story? I should be vulnerable. What is my vulnerable story? I should be this. I should have tattoos because they're in. I should swear on stage because Gary Vaynerchuk does. Listen, I've been swearing on stage 30 odd years, not because Gary Vaynerchuk did. Gary Vaynerchuk was a kid when I started. It was not that. It's part of who I am. I don't, I dress the way I dress. I don't wear a tie on stage. I haven't worn a tie on stage in 20 odd years. I have a very unique look. It's my look. I don't care about any of that. People are so busy trying to work out what they should be to be authentic that they're inauthentic. That's what I mean about faux authenticity. So it's really important that you do the self work, the deep work, and say, well, what's true for me? What is actually true for me? What can I show up with that's true for me that I'm really uncomfortable with? And that, for me, is the question everybody needs to ask in leadership. What am I really uncomfortable with? If you can't show up in that discomfort, don't show up. You've got to show up with that. Because here's a message, and I teach people how to be speakers. I have the Authentic Speaker Academy for Leadership. And I say to them, listen, if you want people to get your message, if you don't feel it, they don't hear it. You got to be willing to feel it. And that means you have to feel your own discomfort on stage. Every time I get on stage, I'm anxious. Not when I'm there, but going on, because I'm going to reveal, I'm going to share, it's going to be uncomfortable. And I've got tons of confidence, but I'm still going to be that because I'm going to step out of my own comfort zone. That's key.
That was so well said. I love the story to go along with it, because that really concretes in the idea of, faux authenticity versus real authenticity, and what the difference is. I mean, for me, I had been faux authentic my entire life up until I hit rock bottom and started to lean into myself and learning what my truth was and learning what I really valued. What did I really believe, aside from my family, my culture, my parents? What was really important and meaningful to me? And doing that inner work is crucial, because in a world where all these leaders are fighting to be seen and heard, I feel that most of these leaders aren't even seeing and hearing themselves.
They're not.
They're
and
not.
you just said something that's really important. Until I hit rock bottom. So where is rock bottom? People ask me that all the time. The answer is, I don't know, because it's subjective. Some people's rock bottom, like mine, was literally rock bottom. I fell off a mountain, got smashed to pieces. While free climbing, fell 120 feet and got smashed to pieces on rocks. okay, that was my rock bottom. But for some
Mm-hmm.
people's rock bottom is a bankruptcy, a divorce. It is the death of a loved one. It's a horrible diagnosis. It's COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It's, it's something else. And many people are at rock bottom who don't look at rock bottom. And this is
Right.
part of the illusion. You know this as well as I
Mm-hmm.
do. You only have to look at anything on one of the TMZ or whatever it is, and you see these people who have got more money than God,
Mm-hmm.
who are miserable bastards. I mean, their life sucks. They've hit rock bottom, but they have a lot of money.
Right.
Rock bottom has got nothing to do with money. That's just one aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the point where you get to and you go, what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point? And so, I started out as a therapist and a counselor and dealt with a lot of people who were suicidal. And it was amazing to me that how many people's lives looked wonderful and
Mm-hmm.
enviable, whose life sucked. And what the problem is that most people do what I tried to do when I fell. People would say to me, "How are you doing after I fell?" And I say, "Oh, I'm great. I'm coming back."
Right.
I was bullshitting myself.
Mm-hmm.
There is no back. Back doesn't exist in our reality.
Mm-hmm.
There is only forward and evolving. But what most people do is let me stick a Band-Aid on it and pretend that I'm going to bring it back. And so we recycle the same crap over and over and over again. And then we hit rock bottom again. And it's
Mm-hmm.
that point of saying, okay, I can't keep this up. And it was the point where I had to say, I can't keep going like this. I got to do something else. I got to dig deeper. And I'd already done a ton of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like the turning point for many people. It's I call it the epiphany moment, where, because you can also hover at rock bottom for years and decades and possibly even your entire life, where you're just there and you're just surviving, which is where I felt I was for a long time. But it wasn't until that survival mode turned into the oh shit mode, turned into the oh look at all the ways in which I brought myself here,
Mm-hmm.
which led to the realization and me diving then deeper into myself and my own self-work. But it's a pivotal time in a lot of people's lives. And I also believe we don't necessarily need to reach rock bottom to create the changes that we want.
No. But most
That's
people will go to that
right.
because we cling to the familiar. And this is
Yes.
what's really important for everybody to know. Because as you're watching, listening to this, you're maybe thinking, yeah, but I'm okay. I'm not that bad. Not that bad is the death rattle of
Mm-hmm.
mediocrity. Not
Mm-hmm.
that bad sucks. And until
Mm-hmm.
you can own that mediocrity sucks, you will stay there.
Mm-hmm.
And your mediocre might be somebody else's excellent, but it's still your mediocre. Do
Yeah.
you get that?
Mm-hmm.
I really need you to get that. Your mediocre might be somebody else's wow, but it's still your mediocre. And if you're impressing everybody else, but you don't impress you, you need to do something. Most
Mm-hmm.
people hit rock bottom and they carry a shovel and keep digging. No,
Mm-hmm.
hold on. Stop. Take pause. Don't come out. Stop, take pause, recognize where you are, and recognize, like you said, Ruby, how did I get here?
Mm-hmm.
Why have I put myself here? Because here's the thing, people say to me, oh, that must have changed your life when you fell. It didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't change my life. It embedded me. I said, I'm great. I'm coming back. It embedded me until I hit not an aha moment, but a fuck it moment.
Mm-hmm.
Aha moments, I don't give a crap about. I've taught workshops for 30 odd years and people have aha moments up the yin yang and it's wonderful and it's exciting and it's marvelous and they do the same old shit tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? The fuck it moment is, fuck it, I can't do this anymore. Fuck you, fuck them, fuck it. I'm not doing this. I'm doing something else. I will burn the bridges. I will burn the boats. I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm going to do something else and I'm terrified and I don't know what the hell it will be, but I'm out. This doesn't work for me. And that's the moment where you actually get pulled to your own dragon fire and go, what is it in me?
Mm-hmm.
What is that thing that will fuel me on the shittiest and the greatest days?
Yeah, that is powerful. The aha versus the fuck it moment. Very, very powerful indeed. Because I think a lot of people assume that the epiphany has to be this beautiful thing. And in reality, it's pretty gut wrenching and difficult to face the reality of that shatters all the lies and the false perceptions that you've created about your life. Now, you mentioned the dragon fire, and I'd love to hear more about dragon leadership, because this is something you're really passionate about. Because there's something that you mentioned, that dragon leaders are committed to living their purpose, standing in their truth, and empowering others to find their fire and do the same, which is, again, far different from command and control. Command and control is all about me, me, me. Whereas the dragon leadership, or the self leadership, is how can I empower you to do the same, which means you got to model it first and be in it first. So would love to hear your how you describe dragon leadership. Let's start there.
So, as you said, a dragon leader is, on the external, is somebody who is assisting others to find their own dragon fire and bring that to whatever it is they're doing. So I can be a dragon leader to somebody who doesn't work for me. I can be a dragon leader to somebody who does work for me. It's not limited to a position. A dragon leader on the internal level has found their dragon fire, which I'll explain in a moment, has found their dragon fire and sees how they can bring it to the world. So when I just talk about dragon fire, people naturally assume, I was on an interview yesterday, they naturally assume, oh, you mean passion. No, I don't mean passion. Passion is transitory. I don't know how old you are as you listen or watch this, but I can clearly remember being 18, 19, 20 years old. I know what I was passionate about. I'm not passionate about those things anymore. Passion is transitory. When I told you I own businesses on 3 continents and ran businesses, I owned hair salons. People used to say to me, stop talking to my hair. I was passionate about hair. I'm an artist first. And that was my art career, was I became a hairdresser, and I was international judge. I was very highly qualified, and I did great work, and I would talk to people's hair. It was a canvas for me. I'm not passionate about hair anymore. I notice it, but it's not a passion. Somebody said to me, you can open a salon tomorrow. I'll be like, yeah, no, thanks. I'm not interested. Passion is transitory. It moves through us. What is that passion transported in? The vehicle is the dragon fire. So as an entrepreneur, you might go, oh, I'm kind of flaky because I used to be in this and now I'm in that. Well, I would say, what's the dragon fire that you've been taking from one vehicle to the next? So you're in the vehicle of this and now you're in the vehicle of that. But what's the common dragon fire that you're carrying through this that's fueling this vehicle to make it really, really move? So you've got to find that. And here's the thing. Your dragon fire, and I want everybody to understand this, your dragon fire, as I said, not your passion. It's not even your purpose. It's deeper than that. It's not even your why. It's deeper than that. It's the why of your why. And your dragon fire will only be found in your pain. So you can't be a dragon leader if you're not willing to do exactly what we've been talking about, which is that self-work to examine what is the pain I'm trying to heal in myself and heal in the world. Because there is no world and there is no self. So what does that mean? Well, it means this. It means if I heal myself, I heal the world. And if I heal the world, I heal myself. Where can I start? Where's the starting point? Internal self. When I do that, I become a dragon leader in my life, and I become a dragon leader in my business and in my world.
Beautiful. That gives me goosebumps only because I agree with passion. I think passion is something that shifts as you evolve in your life. Your passion is going to evolve in your life. I also believe that our purpose evolves as we evolve. But there's that fire in you. I'm curious to know, what is your dragon fire?
It's a good question. So I'm going to answer it by telling you, giving everybody a little exercise that will help them to find theirs.
Perfect.
Right. So, have you ever been to a funeral?
Me? Yes.
Yeah. So if you've been to a funeral, and as you listen to this, ask yourself that question. If you have, you probably know that the job of the person giving the eulogy is to dry clean the dead person.
Hmm.
And here's what I mean by that. A very good friend of mine years ago said, would you come to my dad's funeral? I knew his dad, and his dad was a dick.
Mm.
No other word for it.
Mhm.
And he said, and I said, no, why would I come to your dad's funeral? He was a dick. And he was a dick to you, and you're my friend. And he goes, I know, but I'd like you to come to support me. And I said, absolutely, I'll be there. So we went to the funeral, but I said, but I'm not sitting at the front. And he goes, no, I don't want to sit in the front. I want to sit in the back. I said, okay. So we sit at the back, and the person at the front is doing a eulogy. And the person at the front does a eulogy about this guy who has been just a dick his whole life.
Mm.
But the guy giving the eulogy tells a story about how this man had once paid the rent for a neighbor when the neighbor had no money and never asked for that money back.
Hmm.
So that became the personification of the person, not the truth,
Right.
but the dry cleaned version.
Mhm.
So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about what is the eulogy you want. The eulogy can't be more than a very short paragraph, preferably a line or two, but that's it.
Mm.
So here's mine. Dov was a dragon leader, the father of dragons. He led others to find their dragon fire so that they could heal themselves, heal the world, and make it a better place for all to live in.
Mm.
He was a courageous man and did this always in courage. Okay, good. So Dov was a courageous man who was a dragon leader, blah, blah, blah. You can frame it any way you want. It's okay. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
The sequence doesn't matter. What matters is boil it down to the cleanest version.
Mm.
Now, as we sat at my friend's dad's funeral, we could hear that at the front, but at the back was my friend and a bunch of other people who'd known the old guy. And they were whispering some other stuff.
Mm.
And it wasn't the dry clean version. It was a much darker truth. So here's the question. What do you fear they would whisper at yours?
Mm.
So when I tried this, this is an exercise, because most of us have done the death exercise and
Right.
blah, blah, blah. We've done submission of that. But the whispers we haven't done. So,
Mhm.
okay, what's the whispers? And so I came up with stuff, and it was like, well, I came up with this, I came up with that. Nothing really stuck, and my ego could challenge everything and said, well, that's not true.
Mhm.
And so you've got to when you get to the whispers, it's got to be a gut punch. It's
Mhm.
got to be something that's like, ooh, I would hate that. So for me, I came up with something. I knew it was in the right vein, but my ego would say, well, that's not true.
Mhm.
Okay. I found if I added an expletive, it worked much better. Oh, okay. But then I planted it in the mouths of my grandchildren.
Mm.
Now, you may not have grandchildren. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You may have future grandchildren. It doesn't even matter if you use that context. You use whatever context that creates the emotional gut punch for you. And so mine originally was Dov was a coward. Yeah, and, I can prove I wasn't.
Mhm.
Dov was a fucking coward. Ooh,
Mhm.
ooh, that had some kick to it. But then hearing my grandchildren say, Dov was a fucking coward. See, I can get emotional right now.
Mhm.
That's like, I can't bear that.
Mhm.
So at the front end, I've got the eulogy that's pulling me towards. At
Right.
the back end, I've got the whispers that's pushing me away from.
Mhm.
So now I live my life as a dragon leader by being courageous. When I want to quit, I don't want to hear my grandchildren say Dov was a fucking coward. So I
Right.
step forward and I be courageous. And
Mm.
that's how we all find our own.
Right.
It's the
Yeah.
pull towards and it's the move away from. And the thing about it is, as we move away from this one, it becomes less powerful. So I keep my grandchildren just here, in
Mhm.
my mind, just behind me. And at any point in time, they could say that. And I have to say, well, I'm about to do this. Is that a coward's move? Yeah, stop it. Do something else.
Mm. Mm. Powerful. Yeah, because we often do. I think all of our listeners have heard of the eulogy exercise, but what are
Sure.
the whispers that you fear the most? What are the whispers that cut the deepest? And then using that as the thing that you continuously move away from as you're moving towards this vision and the life and mission and movement that you're creating. That's incredibly powerful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'd love to know where you see leadership going next.
It's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
So, if we have this conversation a few months ago, the context is different than it is today.
Completely.
Because, you know, we've had COVID, pandemic, quarantine, etc. So the context of leadership has changed, as well as how leadership is changing. Leadership is definitely becoming polarized. So we have become more consciously aware as humanity. So, you know, I grew up in, you know, I remember the New Age. I was there at the birth of the New Age. You know, I have photographs with me and Marianne Williamson when we were both young. So I remember all of that, and that raising consciousness and being conscious leaders and making that difference was very clear. And I can remember when I first arrived here in '88, traveling in the US, and there was no churches. I mean, there were churches, but many, many less churches.
Right.
There were many non-denominational churches. They were, quote, New Age churches. Now it's gone very right-wing Christian, right? I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying. So there's this division, whereas before it was collective.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm seeing in leadership. It has become tribal, which is command and control, where you have a leader who is a tribal leader, who is a command and control leader. Those have risen again. And on the other side of it, you're going to have the other side, which is the more globally conscious leader, who is going to be exactly what we're talking about, being a dragon leader, empowering others to step into their power and own that. What is, and we know this is psychology. Human beings move in polarity. It's what we do.
Yeah,
we swing from one end of the pendulum to the other. So, you know, as I said, '80s, we had New Age, then we had radical Christian. Okay. We'll swing back towards a more global consciousness, but it will take a little while. And so we have a rise of, we've got tropical Trump in Brazil. We've got Donald Trump in America. We've got Boris in England. We've got the leader of Hungary. We've got, you know, Philippines, all these dominant leaders. And then we've got the leader of New Zealand, who is in completely a different mindset, and is now being seen as one of the forefront leaders of the G7. So it's a very interesting world that we're living in, where we're having that split and breakaway. So when you say, where is leadership going? It's not one way. Right. It's a one or the other. And so what does that mean? It means we have to decide. So here's the thing. I am definitely more of the global thinking, but snowflakes get on my nerves. I'm pissed off with people who's offended by everything. Right. Get over it. Like, get over it. Freedom of speech means freedom of speech. It doesn't mean you're free to say anything I agree with. It means you're free. Like, I was born Jewish, and I went to the UN and talked about de-radicalizing neo-Nazis and how I would support anybody having freedom of speech, including neo-Nazis, and was able to de-radicalize the leader of the neo-Nazi movement of Canada, but as a Jew. Right. Right? Because freedom of speech is not you agree with me. It means you're allowed to say whatever you want. Yeah. So if you're offended, that's your shit. Deal with it. It's got nothing to do with the other person. So on that level, I'm very conscious and open and want to embrace people, but I'm not willing to shut people up or myself up in the process of that. But I need compassion, and I need love, and I need empathy, and I need understanding of people. And so what we've got to understand is that a lot of that political correctness has created victim mentality. There's a lot of people who are victims, and they run this victim mentality. The problem with being victim, if you run that cycle psychologically, then you need a hero. You need a savior. Oh, what have you got? You've got the leader of Brazil. You've got the leader of England. You've got the leader of America. You've got the leader of the Philippines. You've got these saviors, and they literally stand up and say, I can save you. Right. And so if you're in that mentality where you need rescuing, then you're going to have a savior. So I don't need a rescuer. I don't need a savior. I need to be present in my world. And so when you ask the future of leadership is actually a choice. Will I choose to lead myself so that I can lead others, guide others to leading themselves? Or will I choose to look to somebody to save me? Yeah. I'm not going to do that. I used to have a personal development company that we ran for many, many years with teaching all kinds of programs all over the world. And one of the reasons I stopped is because I wanted to get out of the recycling business.
Mm.
Oh, you took Tony's program. Oh, you took Satyan's program. Oh, you took this person's program, that person's program. Who cares? You're recycling.
Yeah.
Stop it. Put it in action. Live it, eat it, sleep it, breathe it. Do it. Then take some more. Sure. Keep growing, keep developing, but stop recycling. You're accumulating information. You want that? Go on Google. It's a matter of saying, hold on. This is a moment of choice, not for you, not for me, not for the listener, but for the planet. I have to, if I have, my godson is a fierce person about the planet. He started the marches on the island and all those kinds of things. Right. He's the one who behind all that. And he stays with us in the summer. He comes and stays with us. And I go, you care about the planet, right? And he goes, yeah. So tell me how. Well, he tells me, oh, they're doing this and they're doing that. And I'm fracking and, and he's all these things, and he loves Greta and all that. That's fantastic. So what are you doing about it? He goes, well, I do all these things and recycle. So it's great. I said, how's the dishes going? He goes, good. I go, then turn the frickin' water off. You're not saving the planet. You're harming the planet. You're running water and not thinking about it. We don't take personal responsibility. We want to look at them and point the finger and say, they're doing this, instead of saying, what am I doing?
Right, because that's so much easier.
Of course it is. That's the ego. So this is the thing that I try to get everybody to understand. Ask yourself, where am I running spiritual ego? Spiritual ego is, I'm better than you. No, you're not. No, you're not. I am the most enlightened person I've ever met. I am the biggest idiot I've ever met. It depends on the moment. My job is to try and be more of the enlightened person and check that on a moment-to-moment basis. I say stupid shit. I say brilliant stuff. And most of it's in between. But my job is to check that and correct my course. And that's all of our jobs, rather than looking out there, what's wrong with them.
Right.
And that's the problem. That's what real leadership is. It's not looking out there and blaming them. It's looking in here. I don't live in the world. There's a quote for you. I don't live in the world. I live in the mirror. Nothing is out there that's not a reflection of me. If you want to look at it and go, that's terrible, say, where am I running that in my own head? Where am I running that in my own being? And that's when you become a real leader.
Powerful mic drop from you. Thank you. And I think that's a really powerful way to close out this conversation. But to our listeners, really take to heart everything that Dov shared. And he shared some phenomenal exercises for you to implement now. Don't just take this as knowledge. Don't be a sponge. Actually implement and integrate what you've learned in this episode so you can start showing up as a dragon leader in your life. Dov, if they want to get more of you, where's the best place for them to reach out? And I will have all these links in the show notes.
Thank you. So the simplest place is to go to my main website, which is dovbaron.com, DOVBARON.com. There you'll find access to my 2 podcasts, to the YouTube channel. There's over 700 videos on there. The Dragon's Path blog on Medium there's hundreds and hundreds of articles there. All that stuff is all there, including my courses and my books and all those things. But here's the thing, I really want you to get what Ruby just said. Information is worth the hole in the donut. Transformation comes from application. Yes. Okay. So this is great. You're inspired. Who gives a crap? It's a suntan. It'll wear off. Do something with it to integrate it. That is what matters. So here's what I want you to do. Ruby puts this together. I told you I have 2 podcasts. I know what it takes. She brings great guests on to share with you. It doesn't cost you anything. So what you need to do is create some reciprocity. I want you to go on to wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, subscribe to the show, and share it with other people. Not just this episode with me. She has phenomenal guests. Share all of it. Let people know about this. Don't hoard. Share. Be generous. Create generosity. And if there's something I can specifically help you with, you can actually write to me. I actually answer my own emails. Dov@dovbaron.com. DOV@DOVBARON. baron.com. Write to me. Tell me what you've got out of this. Write to Ruby. Tell her what you got out of it. And more importantly, what you're going to do with it. If there's something I can help you with, that's great. But otherwise, I'd love to know what you're actually going to do with it.
Thank you, Dov, for that.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for sharing your presence, your wisdom, your knowledge, and your fire with me and with the audience today. I know that everyone's going to walk away with some pretty powerful insights, and I know I always do when I'm in your presence. So I appreciate you. I appreciate the way in which you show up. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to having you on Leadership and Loyalty.
Thank you. Me too. I look forward to being on there. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining Dov and me on today's Thought Leader, where we're challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. Like Dov mentioned, please drop a rating and review. That would be amazing. If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach out to me on social media at I am Ruby. All of Dov's links and my links will be in the show notes and more. And I will see you back here Monday for a brand new episode of today's Thought Leader. Thank you.